guess look like we're live.
Let's get that camera. The color is good for a second there. All right, we're going to have to stop this one. Oh, wait a minute. Is it looking better?
Well, it don't look bad, but for some reason.
There we go. All right, Action Navigator here.
Live action. This is Rambling with Rooster. And we got Scott here.
There we go.
Taking care of the technical
All right.
particulars.
I think that's pretty good. I think we're going to make it work there. All right. Here we go. Rambling with Rooster. What day is it? May? Keisha, what we got?
May 29th.
Friday, May 29th. All right.
2020.
Rambling with Rooster. Never know what we're going to get.
That's right.
But jewels.
I don't know what I'm going to say either. And there ain't nobody to ramble with here except Mike and his
Keisha.
family. And, yeah, Keisha.
Come on here, Keisha. We can
But that's plenty. But I heard DP and maybe Dale and Joe Ellen's going to come back tonight. That'd be great. I just love that little fella. He's something. And we were talking about the chess game. You know, John Wayne was a chess player. Yeah. I guess he was pretty good, too. And since I got the mic by myself here, mostly, unless you guys want to say something, I'm going to tell you a true John Wayne story. Now, you can imagine when I roam the country, and I've been roostering from New York to California, people will tell me, especially in Oklahoma and around Dewey, you know, Ben Johnson and John Wayne used to hang out. So there's a lot of people around here with stories. And every one of them, when they see me, they can tie me down long enough, they'll tell me their story. Well, I spent some time in Eufaula, Lake Eufaula area. My son and I had a little cabin down there, A-frame. And I tell you, that cabin had a series of bad luck. He bought it almost like at a fire auction because it had been a fire. Didn't burn it down, but we got it cheap and we fixed it up. We had it a few years and sold it. And the guy who bought it fixed it up and it burned down again. So anyway, well, while I was down there, I did a few murder mysteries. And one of them was at the Bell Star restaurant. Because Bell Star's, you know, buried there and lived in that area. And Bella Moon is one of my characters in my Rooster Cogburn murder mystery. And she's based on that. That's a spoof name of her. Well, while I was in Eufaula, a couple years, I went into town, dressed as Rooster, of course. I went into this art and craft store. So I walk in there, and he said, "I got a John Wayne story for you." I said, "All right." He said, "You know, John Wayne had a cabin down in the Caribbean, not Virgin Islands, Bermuda, one of the islands, okay. I think it's Bermuda. And, well, when a hurricane hits that little island, it shuts it down for a while. So after it opened up, John Wayne went down there to do, he would do painting, you know, he did some painting as well as play chess. So, he goes into town. Now, the town hadn't been completely restored as far as all its supplies. And necessities came before arts and crafts. So he goes into his regular arts and crafts store to get some paint for his paintings. And the guy told the story, and I'm going to tell it just like he told me. He comes up to the bar and says, "I need some paint." And the guy said, "Well, Mr. Wayne, we don't have any paint." He said, "Well, what kind of paint store doesn't have paint?" And they both just laughed. And I I really like that story because, and it happens to me too, because but he was acting himself, see, but he knows that when he's such an icon that whenever he says something, it's taken an iconic way, you might say, and so they both just laughed. Because it is funny. He goes into a paint store and they don't have paint. I've seen Saturday Night Live stories where skits where they had some of these malls back 20 years ago. They had these specialty stores. We only sell nuts, or we only sell tape, and they made a big deal. This one, all they sold was Scotch tape. They didn't sell masking tape, duct tape, just Scotch tape. They made a big deal of somebody coming in and wanting tape, but they only had one kind. And so it just struck a funny bone when I heard that story. But I've heard a few about him being at the Dewey Hotel, coming in there and meeting Ben Johnson there. And I guess he did. Cody would know down at the Ben Johnson Museum. We're coming up to the anniversary of that in a couple weeks. The grand opening, June 11th. And I told that story the other day. June 11th was the anniversary also of the movie True Grit. It'll be 51 years this year since the opening of True Grit, and 41 years to the day of the death of John Wayne. So, now, hopefully Dale and DP will be here later, because we got a big plan for June 6th, because that'll be the 50th anniversary of the little story I had told them. We gave a teaser about that last night. It happened 50 years ago on June 6th, and we're doing a show on June 6th. Retell that story, and it has a little twist at the end where on the 1-year anniversary something happened, and on the 10-year anniversary something happened, and so this will be the 50th anniversary, and we're looking to see if the same thing happens on the 50th. That's be kind of neat. Oh, that reminds me, I got a couple of follow-ups. I told that story about the shipwreck, the barge that caught on fire in New Orleans. After telling a story about the House of the Rising Sun, how they found some ruins that had that name on it when they were doing some excavation for a new building or something. Well, I said I went down, and first time I was in New Orleans, it was 1969. And when I went back 25 years later, I saw a plaque there that was 1969. And it seemed like it was right before we went. Well, I went home last night and Googled that, and it came right up. It happened on April 7th, I believe, 1969. So it was a month, maybe no more than 2 months before our trip. And I had the details pretty good, except I said I think the barge was loaded with wood. Well, it was worse than that. It was loaded with oil. It was oil tankers. And when I called the link up, it had to show the picture of the fire. And that fire was taller than these buildings coming off that tanker they had caught on fire. And so the details were, the barge was, or the tugboat was pulling 3 of them. One of them broke loose. And I guess, caught fire. And this other one, it crashes into the other one. Now, what the monument said that the Wikipedia article didn't say, what the monument said is the crew that it crashed into, the captain and the crew said, thought, they figured, they calculated this, or maybe he radioed something, but they could have just went to the harbor and abandoned ship. But in doing so, they would have burnt the whole town down. And if it was just a load of wood, it'd be one kind of fire. But they showed pictures of it. And those flames were 100 foot in the air. And it was a full length, I mean, inferno. And then maybe they wouldn't have made it anyway. But it didn't matter. Of course, according to the monument, they consciously made the decision to stay out there and sink with it. And 25 people, everybody died. Everybody on that boat died. Yeah. And so it was quite a deal. But he saved a lot of lives. And so the anniversary of that was just last month. It would have been the 51st anniversary of that. That fire and the sinking of that boat. So, and another little correction. A previous story, it's not really so much of a correction as an addition. At Denham, I think we would say. I was telling that Comanche story where the Pawnee becomes a Comanche chief. And if you remember, the two boys went down and stole some horses, but one of them went back because he wanted one of those Comanche girls to be his wife. And he convinced the chief, and it just so happened to be his daughter, and the rest of the chiefs that he was willing, he had to have that wife, and he was willing to put his life on the line to get her. Well, they saw that as a brave proposal, and so they made him a Comanche. Well, now, normally, and this is a tradition that's still alive in a lot of countries today, if you're going to marry somebody, you got, somebody has to pay a dowry. And, and I'm not real sure on this, but I'm going to check the Comanche version of this too. Well, so you want my daughter? Well, you can have her, but what are you going to give me? I'll give your horses back, the ones he stole. But there's another item about that story that I had left out.
Well, come on.
If you remember, I said he left one horse. He left one horse at the chief's teepee. And when it came back for the daughter, they had that conversation, and when they decided to accept him into the tribe, the Comanche tribe, his soon-to-be father-in-law, or now his new father-in-law, said, well, I know you stole my horses, but you left the best one. Because I was bragging about how everybody thought they were the best judges of horse flesh. Well, he had to tell him, if you're going to leave one, you should have left the worst one, but you left the best one. So I thought that was kind of funny. But the chief got all his horses back anyway, because the boy was going to join the tribe. So that was a little humorous addendum to the stories. And a new one about that John Wayne in the Bahamas. It was the Bahamas.
Well, I'll point out something to you as far as John Wayne goes.
Yeah.
Right back there, that's Sally's Cafe.
Yeah.
That right there, Ben Johnson and all these cowboys that worked up around that Chapman Barnard Ranch, they would come hang out and have a burger down there. And I've heard many stories of John Wayne spending a lot of time right there in that building.
Yeah. And that's what I would hear too when I was over at Dewey, at the Dewey Hotel, and because he'd come in there, and I'd hang out there. Now I played 3 characters there, and on one day I did all 3. Now Jacob Bartles, he not only is the founder of Bartlesville, he's also the founder of Dewey, and he named Dewey after Admiral Dewey of the Spanish-American War fame. And because that Spanish-American War, if you remember my story about Uncle Emil, was in 1898. But they asked me to play Jacob Bartles. So I got a little outfit, and looked him up, and I played him. And now Jacob Bartles marries the daughter of the Reverend Charles Journeycake, chief of the Delawares. So, and they had a little girl. They had more than one. They had a bunch of kids, but one of them was, I think her name was Annie or Annabelle. And well, she got in a little trouble starting a fire or something out there in one of the oil wells. Or I don't remember exactly the details, but well, I got to play him too. So I got to play, and I played Rooster on top of that. So on one day, I was, let's see, the Reverend Charles Journeycake, chief of the Delawares, in the morning, and then Jacob Bartles, which would be his son-in-law, that evening, or that afternoon, and that evening, I was Rooster Cogburn. Oh! And I think, that's right, I've been doing Rooster and Jacob and Reverend Charles Journeycake so many years up there that they requested Dr. Banish at another little meeting of just the workers. It was workers and volunteers, about 50. It wasn't a public thing. It was, we were going to have a little private dinner, but it was going to be outside, though. They said, we want Dr. Banish to come, because most people have never met him. Well, so I took my Rooster stuff off, I took my Reverend Charles Journeycake off, and Jacob Bartles off, and I went, and nobody recognized me. Nobody knew me. I didn't use my voice or nothing. And somebody said, who is that? And I said, I'm Dr. Banish. Well, are you the guy that plays? Yeah. And I didn't give my voice. That's a true story. And I've been doing it for, oh my gosh, I think going on about 10 years now. But I still have a lot of fun. I still do it. It's always the third weekend, I believe, in September. And sometimes it lands on Mae West's birthday. She always goes with me on those deals, too. And her little gunfighting group. And there's 2 or 3 of those groups up there. But yeah. And there's one more connection. We were talking about with Doc and Dale shows about all these connections, how people are connected by
Ben,
these separations, 1 or 2 degrees. Well, the Reverend Charles Journeycake, chief of the Delawares, who came down from Kansas. I mean, originally his tribe was in Delaware, where Delaware is. They got removed 3 times. He is one of the founding fathers of the oldest college in Oklahoma that was established in, get a load of this now, 1880. That's even before the land runs, 1889 and 1890. It's the oldest college in Oklahoma. And the Reverend Charles Journeycake, it was established for the education of Native Americans.
Where?
Bacone College in Muskogee. And I worked for him. We're Pawnee Nation College. They're our accrediting agency while we're working on our own. So talk about the connections. I mean, it goes back 150 years. These characters are playing, and they're connected. And here's another connection. Jacob Bartles he was in the Union Army. I think it was the 6th Kansas Regiment. And he fought, I believe, in Prairie Grove, Arkansas. Well, in the Western Theater. Okay. Yeah, I love that background music. Well, now, hold on to your seats for this connection. The best U.S. Marshal that never was a Confederate who fought under General Sterling Price. And if you know your Civil War history, he was a general in the Western Theater, okay, which means Arkansas, Indian Nation, Indian Territory. You see, the 5 civilized tribes, what's they call them then, 5 big tribes we have today here in Oklahoma, they all signed with the Confederacy. Some of them really didn't want to, but they just kind of did it. And they had civil wars within their own nation. I've seen the numbers. It's almost exactly 50-50. Half the tribe went with the Union, half the tribe, even though the nation, all the nations signed a treaty under General Albert Pike. And get a load of this, Mr. Scott Trotter of the Whiting Hotel, where I'm staying tonight, and it's a wonderful place. Gotta get that commercial in.
Yeah, you don't have to. It's great.
You're going to love this connection. Where was I?
Pike.
Oh, Albert Pike. I know the feller who plays that character, too, and he's from Pawnee, Oklahoma. He played, and he does a wonderful job. And let me tell you a little bit about General Albert Pike. You know, I didn't have any idea where I was going to go with this rambling. But this is going to be a great story. Albert Pike, he's a 32-degree Mason, which if you know anything about that, that's as high as you can go. And he's the only Confederate general that has a statue in Washington, D.C. Now, part of the reason is because he was a 32-degree Mason. And his claim to fame for the Confederacy, he was personally responsible for getting all those treaties signed with the 5 big tribes. And what are the 5 big tribes? They called them the 5 civilized tribes. The first ones to be removed from the southeast. The Cherokees, the Choctaws, the Chickasaws, Seminoles, and the Creeks. He got each one of those to sign an alliance with the Confederacy. Well, what made his job a little easier is that the Union, they pulled their troops out and they cut off the annuities. The annuities were something to the tune of $100,000 in gold to each of those tribes for the money they owed them for giving up their land, and that was part of the treaty agreement. Well, the Union Army or the federal government wasn't going to send $100,000 in gold to an area that was going to fall to the Confederacy. They just figured it would, because you got Texas to the south, and Arkansas had signed up with the Confederacy, and Kansas was, well, the Civil War, a lot of people think, started in Kansas, leading Kansas back in 1850. They were fighting this secessionists and the slave owners. Anyway, so all the federal troops pulled out and went to Kansas. And with that, they stopped those annuities. Well, that's a betrayal of the treaty agreement, and also a betrayal of the protection against any other invaders. So what would you do if you were a leader of a Indian nation and you had to pick a side? Now the Creeks and the Seminoles, I know for a fact, they wanted to be neutral. And Othalia Holo, he was a a creek, and he led a bunch of Creeks and Seminoles, and he was going to go to Kansas just to get out of the warring area here. But you can't be neutral sometimes. So he was attacked by Confederates. Oh, I love this background. That's from the Last of the Mohegans. Oh, I showed that movie in my Native American history class.
We got some folks. We got some Osage was in that movie.
Yeah, they talk about Wes Studi. He's been in the news here lately.
Oh yeah.
And he says we're going to trade with gold with the Osage. They were talking about how powerful they were, and that was on the other side of the Mississippi River. Yeah, the Osage power was over in that area as well as here too.
Well, even in this movie, there's folks from here who played characters or were extras or whatever in that movie I've got to meet. It's pretty interesting.
Wes Studi tells the story, and I know I'm getting off my other story, but this is a good line to go. Wes Studi tells this story at the Cowboy Hall of Fame Western Heritage Center. He was asked, and he hates to answer this question, what's your favorite movie that you've been in? And he said, I hate to answer that question. I like to answer it's the next one I'm going to be in. You know, but let me answer it this way. The one that I have the most, well, first of all, he said, let me explain. And as an actor, I understand this. When you do a play or a movie, you become a family. I mean, you're working 12, 16 hours a day, but after the play is over, everybody goes their own way. Now, if you're in a local town, you're going to see those people. They're going to come back for the next play, right? But in a movie, no, they're coming from all over the world sometimes. So once that movie's done, you ain't going to see those folks no more, for the vast majority of them. But he said, so the movie that had the longest lasting friendships developed that he still communicates with was The Last of the Mohegans, which the background music is being played now, and I just love that song. Well, come on up here and ramble with Rooster. Tell me a story, and I'll tell you one back. That guy's going to take me up on it. I get right there. So this is how he answered that. This is Wes Studi now talking. He said, you remember the Englishman that I killed? Oh, yeah. That was one of the most bloody scenes. He is about to kill one of the English officers. And that English officer had 2 daughters. And so Wes Studi wanted to kind of rub it in a little bit. Come on over here, Pilgrim. Grab you a seat. And so he says, before I kill you, I want to tell you that I'm going to kill both of your daughters too and wipe out your seed forever from the face of the earth. Because if he doesn't have any daughters, he doesn't have any sons, that's going to be the end of his bloodline. That's the ultimate loss. Of course, it doesn't happen. That's the spoiler alert. It doesn't happen. One commits suicide, but the other one gets to live. So, now while he's doing this, he's literally on top of him. I just had a flash. Much like what happened recently, he had his knee on top of the guy's chest, the collarbone, and he broke his collarbone. And he broke a bone. Well, they kept on shooting it because it was kind of hard to get this scene set up just right. Scalp him and all that. And so he became really good friends with this guy off the scene, of course. In the scene, he has to kill him, but and they still take contact to this day. That's what he told a couple of years ago. I was there. And that same year that I was there, I met Patrick Wayne. And if you scroll back a few years on the Buffalo Theater page, you'll see me and Patrick Wayne standing next to each other.
Now is this is John Wayne's son, who's an author? Is that right?
He's not only he's a fellow actor. He was with John Wayne in the Alamo, and I want to say McClintock, but yeah, I think it was McClintock. Where there's a great scene where his daughter says, "I want you to shoot him." He called me a name, and then he pulls out his little starting pistol. That's his son. That's Patrick Wayne. And in the Alamo movie, Patrick Wayne was the guy that came back from Goliad to report that they ain't coming with any reinforcements because they all got massacred. Santa Anna attacked them first, and they surrendered, and then Santa Anna killed them all. He had them draw from a pot black beans and white beans, and there were only one white bean for every 10 black beans, and if you got a black bean, you got shot. And they only released a few, and those were supposed to go and tell, this is what's going to happen to you if you try to resist Santa Anna. So Patrick Wayne played the part where he comes back and reports that to the Alamo, and his dad's right there playing Davy Crockett. So, yeah.
Now, did you say he was an author, though?
An author?
Yeah, is he the one you said wrote books or something? Is he an author?
Well, he may be.
I couldn't remember if we were talking about John Wayne's son or somebody else who was an author that we were talking about.
Yeah, I think we're talking about somebody else. But anyway, I've got a picture, and we're about the same age. This is interesting. And we're about the same height. Anyway, you see the picture. I want to tell you a little secret. Don't tell anybody this. But I really don't look like John Wayne. At least I didn't think so until I saw myself next to Patrick Wayne. And by golly, we do look alike. At least Patrick Wayne and I do. And we're about the same age, the same height. And now he did make a comment. I was dressed as Rooster, and I was with Buffalo Dale.
Oh, I saw he was here today. See?
Is he?
Yeah, he was down there at Lorick Ranch.
Well, where is that pilgrim?
He was at Lorick Ranch selling his books. It was awesome.
There you go. Well, I missed him. Well, he told me and Buffalo Dale that his dad wasn't as fat as me or something. He didn't say it that bad. He said I had more weight than his dad. Well, which is disputable depending on what year. I mean, if you look at, John Wayne was very, very thin at one time in his younger years, and he got very, very heavy. And then, well, I've been all those weights, and even more recently, I've been all those weights too. But I think he was referring to when he played Rooster Cogburn, or, of course, he was pretty young too. Yeah, I mean, he was the same age I was. I mean, I was 18 when I saw the Alamo, and he was playing in it, and then he was about 18 when he played in it. See, so maybe a little older. I'll have to look that up now. I say these things, I go look them up, and I can correct myself online. But yeah.
So what about this story you're talking about, Pike? You're finishing up.
Oh yeah. Well, now we're going back to the Albert Pike story. This is a great story. Now Albert Pike, my friend down there, he's the husband of Kathy McInnes, who is the librarian. Okay, and she played for a long time a prostitute for the Pawnee Bill Wild West show. Now, I forgot her name, her stage name, but her husband played Major General Albert Pike of the Confederate Army, and he was the historical interpreter for the Honey Springs battlefield. Okay? For a long time until, well, I think he blew off one of his fingers during with the cannon. He would help fire the cannon or something. Well, yeah, he's missing a finger. A lot of those people who do those kind of things, usually about one member of the crew is missing a finger.
How many?
Yeah, how many? But he came to Pawnee Nation College in character and told the story. Well, I already knew the story because it's part of Oklahoma history, which I had taught. I already knew who he was, but he talked about the details.
It's that living history we were talking about.
Yeah, and well, I didn't know he was a Mason, and I didn't know he spoke 7 languages, and this guy was a Renaissance man. You kids in the back, you know what a Renaissance man is? Well, you're looking at one. And what that, do you know, Pilgrim, do you know what a Renaissance man is? Tell those kids what it is.
It's a person that is fluent in many different traits.
Yeah.
And
I
believe
that's only half of the definition.
Well, then I've only got half.
The other half, do you know, Scott?
No, let's hear it.
Well, everybody's going to get a lesson tonight. He's refined and cultured and educated in all those different ways, but he's still a manly man, which means he can hunt, fish, fight, do all those things that a lot of people, for most people that you know, they're in one camp or the other. They're an academic or they're a manly man. What we say, a manly man that does these manly arts. But a Renaissance man, and let me tell you, folks, I'm a good shot. And I was the best archer in the 2 sections at OSU. All right. And I've picked cotton, I've hauled hay, and I've branded cattle and cut pigs. So, if you ain't never seen one before, you're looking at one now. I fit the definition. I don't speak multiple languages, unless you include speaking in tongues and Okie. I taught. But I did teach one of my cats to be trilingual. Oh, you'll love this story. This is a true story now.
Okay. All right. Yes.
True story.
Let's hear that. I want that one.
Oh, you're going to love this story.
This is this. Trilingual cat.
Trilingual.
By Rooster.
And I bet you'll never guess what language is. Yeah. Oh, you're waving this. I thought he had a hand up. I don't want to guess. You in the back. What language do you think I taught my cat to speak? To answer to. Not to speak. That would be a trick. But he would answer to 3 different languages.
Chinese?
That's pretty close. One of them is an Asian language. It was Japanese. Actually, another one is an Asian language. Korean. That's a good guess. Now, the other language, besides English, oh my gosh, there's 4. I forgot about that. Yeah, I forgot about English, but there's one more.
Quadlingual, right? How's that go?
And it technically is in Asia, but we call that region the Middle East. Arabic.
All right.
You're going to love this story.
4 languages of a cat.
4 languages.
Arabic, what were they going? English?
English, Korean, Japanese,
Arabic.
And Arabic.
All right. All right.
And now this cat, I inherited this cat from one of my nieces. And it was a big old cat. And it could stand on its haunches. Now, you know what that means? It's,
the back part of its
leg. Back part of its leg and foot. It could stand up all day, just like it's begging, like a dog would beg. It could stand there all day.
Was it overweight or anything?
No, it was just a huge cat.
Like
it weighs 16 pounds. We had 3 cats, and I thought this curious. Sheba, which was Siamese, she weighed 8 pounds. And Smokey, oh, now I got a lot of Smokey stories. He weighed 12. But she had another, my niece had another name for her, and I even forgot what it was, Jerome or something. But I called him Fluffy, because his hair was about 1.5 inches, 2 inches long, which made him even look bigger than he was. It was Fluffy. And he was a real gentle cat, but he was huge. Huge. And he could open doors.
With his mind.
No. He could. I ain't making this up. I got pictures. I got photographic evidence of it. He could stand on his haunches and grab the doorknob and turn it. I ain't making this up. And now some cats.
Velociraptor, man.
Now, if the door went in, he leaned in. If the door came out, he fell back. He could open the outside door to your house if it wasn't locked.
Look outside.
And I told the story. This is a true story. I called my mother, and she knew about that cat. And I said, you know, we had to start locking the door. This actually happened. And one time, see, I had these international, I call them my daughters, because they would come for 10,000 miles to live in Murray, Kentucky, and they stayed with my wife and I, and we kind of adopted them. You know, so I call them my international daughters, and I still in contact with them. And that's where those languages came from, by the way. Well, one time, my wife and I were just gone for part of a weekend, and while we were gone, they had locked themselves out. And I thought, well, you should just got the cat to open the door from the inside. But they didn't figure that out. But
well, they didn't know its name.
oh yeah, they knew its name. But anyway, we put one of those key thing, punch key things, so it never happened again. But now I was always the first one out of the house in the morning. And I was also probably the last one to come in. Well, not the last one to come in after they started dating and stuff. They were the last ones to come in. I had to keep my eye on those girls.
What was the cat doing?
Well, what the cat would do, see, he was causing so much trouble, we would throw him out. And and I'd lock the door so he wouldn't come back in. Because if he didn't lock the door, he would just open and come on in. And so,
I bet you in the window too.
So I was telling my mother, and she knew the story about the dog, the cat. And see, I had to put a lock on each of the bedroom doors because the cat would open their door and then jump in bed with them, and they'd wake up and there'd be this big furry thing, and they'd scream, and I was thinking somebody's breaking in. So we put locks on their bedroom doors. That is probably a good thing anyway. Just to keep the cat out. And so I come home. I usually come home about 6 or 7 from the college, 6 or 7 p.m. But the girls might still be out, see, or one of them would be. And the cat would do something, make me mad. I'd throw him out and lock the doors. And I told my mother, I said, well, the next morning I was the first one up, first one out of the house. I went down the stairs, and there was my cat down at the bottom of the stairs. And my mother, I was telling her the story, and she said, well, how'd he get in? I said, Ma, you ain't gonna believe this, but in his mouth he had a key. Now, that part I made up. But for real now, for real, there is a monkey that's in a zoo, and you can Google this. And this guy almost got fired. He was a zookeeper, and he said, "You're not locking that cage." I am locking the cage. Somebody's unlocking it. And that monkey had made a key and kept it in his mouth. And they finally figured it out because they put a camera down there and they caught him taking that key out of his mouth and unlocking the gate. That's a true story. You can Google that.
What did he make it out of?
He made it out of bamboo or something. He had the material there. Seriously, you can. But anyway, back to my story.
It might have been quadrilingual.
I ain't finished this story about the cats.
Quadrilingual, yeah.
About how that happened. Now, the interesting thing, when you have an Arab, and they're Muslims, and you have Koreans, which can be Buddhist, and Japanese, which can be Buddhist also, or something else. You got to be careful what you feed them, right? Now, the Buddhists, they won't eat beef, but they'll eat pork. Well, the Muslims won't eat pork, but they'll eat beef and chicken. And you know why I found this out. You know why the Buddhists won't eat beef? I asked them. I had they're smart little girls. One of them was the daughter of a Korean airline pilot, and the other, I had more Koreans than anything. And the other Korean was daughter of an engineer, and she was going into waste management, so she wanted to know everything about sewers. Well, I knew a lot about sewers too. Cleaned out those 70 tanks and things. Anyway, we talked sheet, S-H-E-E-T, for the radio audience, and how to get rid of it and treat it and all that. But anyway, back to the story. So they loved these cats. They were just all different. But, well, Fluffy, he would come to the table. Now, what would I have holiday dinner that they could all eat? Turkey. And in their countries, see, we got great big turkey farms here, and turkey's relatively cheap, but it's a gourmet food in those other countries. And they couldn't go home for Thanksgiving or Christmas because, it's 10,000 miles and it costly. So campus would be abandoned. So we'd invite all the international kids over there that were forced to stay in town somewhere for Thanksgiving. And I'd make a big old turkey. And that's why we'd have all these different languages. The only common language was English. And so, now, Fluffy, he would stand up and beg for scraps from the table, and he really liked hot dogs, this little piece of hot dog. And he would do it when you said the word up, U-P, up, Fluffy. And he would get in this big formation, stand up on his haunches, and then you fed him. And I thought, well, he knows how to do that in English. I'll teach him how to do it in Korean and Arabic and Japanese. So, one time, and I did. And it was one of those holiday dinners, and we had complete strangers. Now, my wife worked with the internationals, but she might have known them, but I had never seen them before. They were coming over for a holiday dinner. And I said to the Korean, I said, I'm going to spell a word in English. And you'll see why I did this. I want to spell a word in English, and I want you to say that word in Korean to the cat. To the cat who's standing next to you. Or he's not standing yet. He will when you say this word to him. So I said, I want you to say this word in Korean that is spelled in English, U-P. And so he says, and I wish I knew, the cat remembered, but I don't. But you Koreans out there, you know what the word in Korean for up. So that boy, he turns to the cat and says in Korean, Chunga, or whatever. And the cat stands up and, begging for his food. And he gets, and I went around the table and and I'll say it in Japanese and I'll say it in Arabic. I do know a little bit of Arabic. Mahaba is good afternoon. Sabach Leclerc. That's good morning. I love that one because I got a granddaughter named Claire, named after yours truly. And
Let's hear that one again. That was a really good one.
I ain't through.
Oh, that
I ain't through. I ain't through. So anyway, yeah, I told you these stories about Fluffy, but I didn't tell you about Smokey. Oh my gosh! Now, he was one of the most beautiful cats, and I wasn't the only one that had that opinion. Now, we lived right on the corner, real close to the street, and one of the things that Smokey would do, he'd jump up on top of the carport, you know, and like a goat, you know, and want to get up high, or he may just be set down on the steps. And cars would slow down for the stop sign. It's a four-way stop. And so they'd slow down and look over there. And I could hear them. They'd say, "That's a beautiful cat." I mean, it's only about 20 feet from where I'm sitting in the living room. Which, by the way, at one time, the cat gave me a hard time, and I threw him out and locked the door, and he came in the other door.
Did he open the door?
He opened the other door and came back in. That was Fluffy.
Oh, Fluffy just leaves
The door opener. And also the one that would do the but Smokey, oh, now, he had some other talents that Fluffy didn't have. And I've seen him do it multiple times. Now, unfortunately, he was a bird killer. And not just any kind of bird killer. You see, this Kentucky state bird is the cardinal. And we had a bunch of cardinals. And I was afraid that Kentucky National Guard was going to come out and arrest Smokey for what he would do. He was killing those cardinals. So I had him declawed and everything, and it just made it more challenging. But the blue jays, you know what a blue jay will do? They'll dive bomb a cat. Well, they only did it once on Smokey.
One time.
They only did it once. I wish I had this on videotape. Now, they got smarter after seeing what happened to the other ones. If they dive bombed him from the side or the front, he would just jump up in the air and grab them, pull them down, and bite off their neck. Oh, well, okay, we're going to come in from behind. Pilgrim, you're not going to believe this. I saw him do a double back flip in the air and pulled that blue jay out of the sky and killed it right there. Now, Smokey had a gentle side, though. Well, there's a lot of birds there. Cardinals and blue jays around that corner. I don't know why there's so many birds with all that killing going on. Before I tell you this gentle story, I got to tell you. See, Smokey, he didn't join the other two cats. I moved over there with one or two cats, and when my wife came later, she brought Smokey. Now, Smokey was, he was homesick for Stillwater, Oklahoma. You could tell he was homesick, and he wanted to be back home. But the first night, just like tonight, it started getting sundown, and that's when you look around here pretty quick. They're doing it right now. I see them circling. The birds will start nesting, and this was a major nesting. So Smokey, he was having a terrible adjustment until that first night. And there was a major nesting going around on all four corners around his house. He said, "I'm going to like it here." And he did. But now Smokey, he liked to watch me work, you know. And I was doing some projects down in the basement. Now this is a 3-floor cottage. It was 3 stories. And it looked like a gingerbread house. It's so cute. I can show you pictures of that too. Had a full basement, a full first floor, and the third floor was reduced in square footage. But each of these had a bathroom, and each of them had, sinks, and each had bedrooms in each of those floors. So my wife and I had the top floor, and the girls had the first floor, and the basement was. We had a bedroom down there eventually too, but there was a fireplace it was a beautiful house. So I was working down in the basement, and Smokey, he got that name because he was gray and white, and he had a half a milk mustache, and he looked so cool. But he also smoked when he ran. All you could see was a flash of smoke. He was so fast. He was so fast, he like played me a little game. I'd run upstairs. Now remember, I'm going upstairs, I had to run up one flight of stairs, get on the landing, and go up the other side. He would wait. He could hear all this. He was laying there in the basement, act like he was sleeping. But he could tell which step I was on. And when I was on the third step, from the top of the second, I could hear him launch from the basement. And before I put my foot down the landing on the second stairs, he'd pass me. And I said, I'm going to beat that cat if it's the last thing I do. So I got in shape. And every day I'd run up them stairs. And every day he would beat me by a half a step. It was incredible. And he would spot me 1 3/4 stairs before he even start. But one day I was getting in pretty good shape, and he was getting pretty cocky. Cats are like adolescents. They think you're your parents, and like adolescents, like those get back. Every now and then you got to show up your parents just to let them know, you're stronger. And like arm wrestling, I heard about that arm wrestling. Who won, by the way? I told my son.
Actually, it was Zara.
By the way, I was runner-up arm wrestling champion at Oklahoma State University. That's a true story. The guy cheated, or he wouldn't have beat me. But that's another story.
Now, it was not Sylvester Stallone, was it?
No, it was for my weight class too.
Oh, okay.
And I wasn't a heavyweight; I was a middle heavyweight, or whatever they called us at that time. But I could have beat him in a rematch, but he cheated. But anyway. So one day, after getting in pretty good shape myself, and he wasn't spotting me any less, I could tell that I was going to beat him by half a step, because I could just tell where I was when he was coming up that last stairs. And he was going he'd do 3 or 4 steps at a time, leaping. Now, I can do 2 with my big old long legs, but I can't move as fast as he. So I was just about, he was 3 steps behind me, which is two leaps, or 1.5 leaps for him. And I was just about to set my foot down and win for the first time in the whole semester, when Smokey decided he wasn't going to race today. He sat down, turned his back, looked down and says, I'm not going to race today. And believe it or not, I use this as an illustration of the formula for motivation. It's a true story now. It's in psychology. There's a formula for motivation. It is the value of the incentive times the percent chance of winning. In other words, if both of those numbers are high, you're highly motivated. See, say like today, I won. There's 1 out of 10 people, and that's a pretty good percentage. And it was $100. That's a pretty good incentive, and I was motivated to go down and get that money. Now, I wouldn't be if it was just a penny, or I had a 1 out of a billion chance to win. You see those numbers, they get too low, you lose all motivation. His motivation to beat me as his parent, remember I'm his parent, was high. But as soon as he saw that his probability of winning was 0, no motivation at all. And this is true. You don't have to be a human See, you could be a single cell organism. If you have zero chance of winning, you're not motivated. And that illustrated that perfectly. So he never lost because the last race he decided not to run. and I bet you've been in a situation where you're losing all the time to somebody and said, well, I'm not going to play anymore. And Scott says we're going to need to wrap this up. So I didn't finish all the stories, but this is going to be it for Rambling with Rooster.
We'll come back on some more.
And maybe some later.
Well, we got tomorrow night.
Yeah, we got tomorrow night.
So we'll have tomorrow night. We'll do a little something extra again, and we'll have some more Rambling with Rooster. And so we had a good
And more history lessons and psychology lessons too.
Yeah, this is really cool. We appreciate everybody, and thanks for everybody who came. We got some kids, and Ben, thanks for coming.
And all you thousands of people out there, if you'll like this video and we post it, we appreciate it. Hey, did you know that last post got 1.7 thousand views? Did you see that?
1.7 thousand. I'm down.
1.7. I'm not kidding. It said 1.7K on there. Yeah, well, that's pretty good. In 12 hours.
Get the good message out there, and we'll get just some good entertainment out here for folks, and appreciate all their, the community and everything. Just kind of hang in there, stay strong. We're just trying to bring a little entertainment and some fun to the streets, and just hang in there. We're doing good, folks. Just kind of, we love y'all. We'll see you soon.
Bye-bye and stay safe.
Try and get that button to work.